Казвам ви здравейте от борда на Cayenne и Hybrid, само че това видео ще е много по-различно от останалите, защото пред нас се движи Panamera 4. Кордон от две коли сме, защото отиваме на летището, на VIP терминала да посрещнем не кой да е, а самият Марк Уебър. Марк Уебър идва в България по случай отварянето на Porsche център София. До вечера ще има парти, ще говорим с него за автомобили, за класически автомобили. Радваме се, че имаме тази възможност, привилегия, така че благодарим на нашите приятели от Porsche и нямаме търпение да се срещнем с Марк, така че гледайте.
It's going to be victory for Mark Uebър.
Fantastic guys, not bad for another two driver. Cheers.
Mark Uebъr now switches his attention to previously unfinished business.
Personally for me, I mean, to win with Porsche, it's a big moment for me.
И ето и срещата, която очаквахме с нетърпение, срещата с Марк Уебър. Имаме доста въпроси, но ще направим един спокоен разговор и с прекрасни автомобили, за да си говорим за автомобили и за други неща. Марк, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you, mate, yeah.
To be here.
Yeah.
You had a long flight, man. It's like 24 hours.
Long flight from my house to the hotel, 24 hours, yes. I come from Australia. So, yeah, I have a bit of work to do back in Europe. So, okay. Yeah, but no, I'm used to the jet lag. It's okay.
Yeah. You travel a lot. How do you stay fit? I know that you're cycling.
I'm not that fit anymore. I was okay a few years ago. Try to cycle, yeah, a little bit of cycling. Try to do something each day if I can. But right now I'm not in that great a shape, but I'll be back.
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Yeah, you'll be back.
I'll be back.
It's really
48 now. I'm 48. So like, oh my God, it goes like that.
Yeah.
It goes like that.
How was your first race, the first time when you went there, compared to the thoughts that you had before, like you're imagining what will be?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Look, of course, after so many years in Formula One and then you go to race in a sports car race, the three big things that are the main difference is, of course, I have to share the car with other drivers, of course, and that means the seating position already. I don't have a perfect seating position. It's pretty close, but not perfect. Because Formula One, I can make it perfect for myself. I'm also in sports car racing. I'm going to share the track with other drivers which are not professional. They are amateurs. So we have, of course, the professionals, which I was racing against, lots of professionals in sports car racing, and then you have the amateurs, you know. So you have to share the track with some people that are a little bit out of their depth, which is something to get used to. And then, of course, you drive at night as well. In Formula One, we don't drive at night. So this is the three main things which were the biggest difference. But thankfully, I had a great teammate in Timo Bernhard, and Timo was so good with me to explain about, to deal with the traffic, you know, and how do we, I mean, all of us have had close moments, and of course, accidents. I had one accident. All of the big accidents in sports car racing have happened generally when the fast cars are passing a slower car.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite racetrack, maybe? Or it depends?
Favorite racetrack? It depends on, I mean, of course, Le Mans in the sports car is a beautiful track. In the 919 Porsche, that was a beautiful racetrack. Absolutely spectacular. With a big mix of everything, top speed, the chicanes, the Porsche curves, you know, even the first sector is very nice there. But in Formula One, I think Suzuka was really a challenging track, very, very authentic and raw, still raw to this day. It's the track has not changed much in the last 20 years. It's incredible. The curbs have nice character, the asphalt is a bit different, the weather's always around, you know, so you have to be really on top of your game at that place. The wind is playing a big role as well with the Formula One car. But tracks, of course, that you do well at, you always have a bit of a love affair with. You know? So I have a love affair with Brazil. I always like driving there, and Silverstone and Monaco. You know, so they were the ones where I have great memories for. Also Hungary, I managed to do well there. But yeah, so they're the ones that link your nice memories. But it's our job as a racing driver to love all the tracks. You know, you can't say I have just these tracks. You know, it's like a golfer. You know, you have to love all of the holes to be, you know, if you're par 3, par 4, par 5, You can't say I don't like this hole because it's not my style. So you have to be an expert at every track. That's where the good guys can make a difference.
When was the first time that you realized, okay, I really want to be a professional racing driver? Do you have something like a wow moment? That's it.
The wow moment for me was probably when I started to have some success in Europe. You know, when I raced in Australia, I was like, okay, this is good, but it's small, and the competition is not that. The depth of the field is not that strong. In junior racing, of course, they have V8 racing in Australia now, supercars. That's a very high level of racing. I didn't do that I didn't race touring cars, obviously. I raced Formula single seaters. So for me to leave Australia, then go and race in the UK, which the UK in the early 90s and mid 90s was, or sort of 80s to the 90s was like the place to be, the place. And when I started to have some success there, I thought, okay, this is now getting a bit serious, because before that I was reading magazines about these guys. The magazine would take 2 weeks to get to Australia. I was reading about these guys. These are the guys, maybe one day I'll race these guys. And when I arrive there, then I win the same race with these guys. So that was the moment for me where I'm like, okay, maybe I have a chance.
Let's go to the road cars. Do you consider like a real petrol head and really to drive cars, like sports cars?
I wouldn't say I'm a huge petrol head, no. I like cars that are understated and functional and, of course, quick and reliable. And that's why I love Porsches. My first Porsche that I bought was a 997 turbo, and I had that for a couple of years when I was in Formula One. And I have a few Porsches now, which I have brothers and sisters of these cars.
Which one? The ST?
I don't have an ST, I have the 4 litre.
The 4 litre one?
Yeah.
It's all rare.
Yeah, that's rare. Yeah, I have that one. I have the 918 in the corner. I mean, one of the best road trips I ever did actually was in a 918 in the hills in Colorado. It was such a beautiful drive. Late at night, sunset and late at night. And yeah, that was with the roof off. That was one of the most powerful road car experiences I ever had in my life. It was a beautiful drive. But racing drivers in general, we don't do a huge amount of road drive. Like, we don't go out to
just drive.
I don't know. I don't hear too much of us guys going out just to drive.
Like motorcycles do.
Yeah,
maybe.
That's right. I'll do more motorcycling than I do with driving my cars. But I like to have them because they're pieces of jewelry. You know, they are pieces of jewelry. They're beautifully engineered. And this is a baby that's grown for the 911. We have so many generations now of beautiful integration and making it more robust, more functional, more sporty. But the fly line of the 911 has not changed.
It's epic.
And that's iconic.
Yeah. Do you prefer more like natural aspirated engines or turbo? You said that you had turbo, or you're like...
I like... I'm allowed to like both because, to be honest, I like the GT3s in terms of I have the 997 GT2 RS as well. I have the 4 litre RS as well as the GT2 RS. So whenever I drive, they're both the last of the Metzger engines with the 4 litre. And this engine is magnificent. It's a beautiful engine. And then you jump in the GT2 RS with the turbo, the torque. You feel the torque. Not quite. No, I think it's a bit less than 700. But in terms of the power, it's only 1,350 or 1,340 kilos.
Yeah.
So the power to weight's extraordinary. So you drive that car with that amount of turbocharged capabilities. So as a racing driver, I love that as well.
I would like to ask you, actually I wrote a question about these two cars, and then I saw on Instagram that you drove them both. I didn't know that you have this one.
I have driven both of them. I don't own a GT, I own a 918.
I quite like this car. It's like one of my favorite cars. Can you describe what is it to drive? The noise, the sound, it's epic.
The engine is gorgeous. Engine is absolutely gorgeous. But what's fascinating with Porsche, which still gets most people every time, including most racing drivers, is the seating position. You sit in a Porsche. You don't sit on a Porsche. You sit in the car. And it's like a racing car. And that's what we love about driving a Porsche, is that you really do, you're part of the car when you sit in. It's the same for these two. You know, with the Carrera GT, the seating positions are quite similar. You see the wheel arch just above your eye line. This beautiful wheel arch as it goes away, you know, and that's something which on the 918 I love as well. Clutch.
Is it?
You got to behave yourself. You just got to get it right. If the everything is behaving itself well. I've only driven the Porsche's museum car, the factory car from the museum. So I've driven a good example. Yeah. But
well maintained.
Yeah, but the gearbox and the engine and everything is, you know, it's an extremely quick car, and both of them are going to age beautifully. They're going to age, like, look at them. They're already 20-year car. Exactly. They're already aging beautifully, you know. And I think the 918 from the back, you know, you look at the exhaust from the top, the way they did the architecture of the engine, and of course we have some hybrid capabilities with this car, of course. I think that's also going to date, and it is already. Like, look at the rear of the car, look at the hips.
That's beautiful.
You can't do that any better.
Yeah, and it's amazing because when you remove all the body work underneath, it's anywhere there is something, because it's so functional, it's so complicated.
Packaged, yes, of course. The packaging is I mean, that car at the time is sort of still, but you think about the design of that car, and then when it was launched, how pioneering it was. Typical Porsche, you know, extremely pioneering at the time, and the lap time at the Nordschleife at the time, you know, was, you know, out of this world, you know, and still a competitive time in some ways. Of course, the lap times have moved on so much of the Nordschleife, mainly because of downforce now. The downforce has changed all of this space. These cars have
and also
quite a small amount of downforce. And the rubber.
Yeah.
Tire technology is constantly moving on, which you can put on the latest tech of rubber if you want, of course. But this baby here, she hasn't got much downforce. Oh. She hasn't got much downforce. That thing is slippery.
And I want also to ask you about bikes. You're a keen biker.
My father had a Yamaha dealership for about 20 years in Australia, so I grew up in a small town, and motorbikes was my first love, actually. So I love two wheels, but my dad's enthusiasm was not the same probably as mine for racing motorbikes. So then I had a friend that had a go-kart. I drove the go-kart, and then of course that was the same drug that I got from, you know, I was only 12 or 13, but I wanted to drive the go-kart more and more, and I got like this disease towards racing. I was watching racing on TV all the time, on repeat, watching people drive, doing this, doing that, and what can I learn from watching the tapes and TVs of the racing? So ultimately, two wheels has never left my DNA. Even though my father said, like, when I got my motorbike license about 10 years ago, actually. But he says, you're never using you're not riding on the road, you know. So I only started riding properly on the road in the last 5 years. But I've been comfortable on motorbikes all my life, but mainly recreational. But now I do a bit more on the road. But yeah, I love it, you know, MotoGP and super bikes and
Elfman TT.
Isle of Man, of course. Yes, that's been there many times. So yeah, it's still, you know, four wheels it's so tech heavy now, you know. Of course, so are the motorbikes now. MotoGP has moved on. Look at the start, the launch control. We have the aerodynamics. We have all this. So it's natural for all of us to look back and say the old days were always better. You know, we look at that. It's easy, you know. But still, with motorcycle racing, I think there's still a huge element on the rider, and that's something which I still love.
Yeah, you know John McGuinness, which is a legend and great guy.
Yeah, of course. Yep. No, I know John McGuinness. John, I've been to watch him race at the Isle of Man several times. Good family friend of ours. Such a neat guy. Such a neat family. Good people. And a racer. You know, he's that classic. He's the most authentic, genuine racer that you'll ever meet in your life. And anyone that has contact with John feels that, understands that. You know, and the essence of his passion and enthusiasm for motorcycle racing. You know, he goes. Of course, he has a archive of, you know, that's with Mike Halewood, whether it's with Joey Dunlop, whether it's what, you know, all of his heroes that went before him. But of course, he still watches the other racing too, the other two-wheel racing, of course. So he's a real aficionado. You can nearly say a fan, but of course everyone is idolizing John, you know. So it's a nice dynamic.
And the last two questions, I don't want to waste your time, and we can talk here about cars for hours, I think, but you should rest. If you can choose to race against some of the legends, which one you would like to race against?
I think I would like to. I mean, it's the era that had the most impact on my life when I was a young boy, and that era is the mid '80s. You know, when I was 10, 11, 12. Of course. So you look at Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost, Mansell Piquet. This mid '80s to late '80s, Jean Alesi, like this period for me was the biggest impact on my life to watch them, of course. And since then, of course, I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of them, spend time with them. Of course, I unfortunately never met and Senna. Tragically, he left us too early. But of course, I spent time with Jackie Stewart, you know, and you know, you go back to, you know, back as far as that. So you have this affinity with the journey that all the drivers went on. And sometimes we don't feel worthy of like what they did, you know, with the gearboxes, and like we have
It was so complicated.
Exactly. So I think that the sport technology has moved on so much, and also back then there was, you know, more fatalities. People were not making it as much, and that was, you know, so we can't really relate to that as much, drivers now, because, you know, I have lost a few friends, but like back then it was really, really different. So I think that era for me, that's where the romance is for me. You know, I would race in that era if I could,
And last but not least, what do you think about this new home of Porsche in Bulgaria?
No, the new center here in Sofia is phenomenal. One of the best I've seen in the world, honestly. The footprint, the scale, the size, the planning, the early vision they've shown. It's so easy to under-spec things so early and then have to retrofit later on. But I see the sheer scale of this facility, the quality of the cars in here, enthusiasm in the people is genuinely really, they love the brand. That's important. So I think there's going to be some, you know, and the market is so strong. You know, these type of facilities now are needed in the market because the brand is strong here. People want to get closer to the product. They want to purchase the cars, and this is an embodiment of the passion and enthusiasm for the brand.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was really a pleasure and privilege.
No worries, mate.
Hope you have a good time here and hope to see you again.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, mate. Няма как да не съм щастлив, че работата ни с Дизи ни срещна за пореден път с страхотен човек, автомобилен състезател и автомобилен ценител. Марк Уебър. Беше ми изключително интересно да разбера от какви автомобили се вълнува, какви автомобили кара и също какво е мнението му за тези двете, той между другото има и такава, което вече знаете, за Carrera GT, кола, която ми е на сърце. Ако следите сайта, най-вероятно знаете, че не пропускам да пиша новини за нея. Надявам се и на вас да ви е било толкова интересно, колкото и на мен. Абонирайте се за канала, ако още не сте, Facebook, Instagram и сайтът ни DizyRiders.bg. Сега оставам да се наслаждавам на GT-то. А на вас, чао!